Well, if you watch my film, What is a Woman, then you're familiar with the lengths people will go to deny objective reality. I asked one young woman in the film what would happen if my truth was that she no longer existed, and she immediately replied that if that's my truth, that she doesn't exist, well, then she doesn't exist. Such was her commitment to the relativistic viewpoint, but since the two of us were standing in the same physical environment and having that conversation in the first place, does that not indicate that there is some sort of shared reality that we both inhabit? And since that reality has certain laws, certain immutable features, does that not again indicate that there is one truth, one reality filled with lots of people who all harbor ideas and opinions which may or may not comport with that reality? Isn't that what it means? I mean, after all, no matter what your truth might be, we all still live in a world where 2 + 2 = 4. Or do we? Ontario math teacher Heather, I'm not going to even attempt the last name, Thiemeyer maybe? Well, whatever. She says otherwise. In a tweet reposted by Chris Rufo, Heather, who again teaches math to kids, wrote, quote, "There are many math education practices that we, white folk, don't see as racist or supremacist because they're so ingrained in our background and experiences, and we've been the ones to benefit from them." She then thanks someone named Jason 2 for shining a light on these examples of mathematical racism. She then provides a chart in the shape of a pyramid, which distinguishes between overt white supremacy in math education, and then below that she has covert white supremacy in math education. Now, examples of overt white supremacy are things like racially segregated classrooms, which, by the way, is something that only the left actually supports anyway. And also, she says the N-word. The N-word is an example of overt white supremacy, which is a good tip for any math teachers out there. Do not incorporate the N-word into your math instruction. Just so you know, don't do that. If you find yourself shouting the N-word while teaching long division, something has gone horribly wrong, Heather points out. And I'm glad that she's here to clarify that point. But then we move to the covert examples. And there we find a bit of a mixed bag. So she says that standardized testing is white supremacy, which is good news for me because I always did very poorly on standardized tests as a kid, which I guess means that I'm not a white supremacist. Of course, there are many valid criticisms you could make of the standardized testing approach, and especially of a system structured around standardized testing. But people like Heather make those conversations impossible by insisting on racializing everything, as always. She also says that the phrase stick to math is white supremacy. And we could maybe spend some time reflecting on how stupid that is, but we have bigger fish to fry because she also lists 2 + 2 = 4 as white supremacy. Yes, only in a white supremacist fantasy land do 2 things and 2 other things equal 4 things. If it wasn't for white supremacy, 2 apples and 2 apples would make 9 apples or 12 apples or 3 apples, an orange, and 5 coconuts. 2 and 2 apples would be a whole fruit salad if not for white supremacy. Now, if this seems to make no sense at all, that's because it doesn't make any sense. But I think in fairness, I should let the advocates of this idea explain it for themselves. Unfortunately, the teacher who posted this tweet locked down her account, so we don't know what else she has to say. The guy she credits for having shed light on this, Jason 2, I went to his account to see if he's explained it. And he, in fact, said that he's not going to explain why 2 + 2 = racism. He says we should all simply accept it, I guess because he said so. He did, however, retweet a different math teacher by the name of Lori Rubel, who posted a thread on the subject. And here's what she said. What does the 2 + 2 = 4 talk mean? Here we go again. She then posts a meme and explains in the caption, here's one way that 2 + 2 = 4 gets used. A crowd of people has gathered holding signs with various alternative equations. The one guy, who apparently knows the truth, is being excluded/derided and called a Nazi. That image isn't actually about math, it's about truth. Who holds the truth? Who decides what is true? And how open are we as a society to multiple truths? Does this mean that anything goes? No, it does not. Here's another insidious way that 2 + 2 = 4 gets used. It's used as a kind of basic truth and way to ridicule many critiques of mathematics as white and Western and as exclusionary. Are those critiques suggesting literally that 2 + 2 is anything other than 4? No. Okay, so then what does it suggest? I mean, what the hell are these people babbling about? Well, if you are like so many people in our culture, desperate for validation and respect, then I've got one way you can achieve that. It's with established titles. Now, established titles is your opportunity to earn the title of Lord or Lady and gain the respect that you deserve. All you need is a 1 square foot plot of land in Scotland. That's all it takes. In your title pack, you'll be bestowed with at least 1 square foot of dedicated land on a private estate in Edelston, Scotland, plus an official certificate with a crest. As you can see, I have mine here, which I usually proudly display in my studio. Your certificate features a unique plot number with which you can see the exact location of your land, and you can even go and, I guess, probably stand on it if you want to. Title packs from established titles are a fun and unique gift for any occasion, and there are even couple packs that come with adjoining plots of land for the special someone in your life. With your certificate, you could officially add the prefix of Lord or Lady to your credit card, to your plane tickets, even your dating profiles, most importantly. And get this, Established Titles told me that the first 200 people purchasing a title pack using my exclusive link will receive a plot within a few walking minutes of mine. So depending on how many of us become lords and ladies, we can build our own kingdom. Established Titles is actually running a massive sale right now. Plus, if you use the code Walsh, you get an additional 10% off. So it's a lot of incentive. All you got to do is go to establishedtitles.com/Walsh to get your gifts now and help support the channel. Well, Laurie then links to a different thread that she wrote on the same topic about a year ago, which tells us this. The 2 + 2 = 4 talk signals that there is a single truth, a single way of looking at things, a single correct way to live or be, rather than multiplicities of all of these matters. Since math is endowed with social authority and positioned as objective and as part of a natural order, that then implies that the singular approach is also part of the natural order. That's why people reference 2 + 2 = 4 in racist, anti-trans, anti-queer talk, etc., because in their view, opening up math and how we teach it would imply a challenge to a natural order they hold as sacred, one in which white people, and usually men, are at the helm. Okay, so in other words, they can't explain why 2 + 2 = 4 it means racism because the claim is abject nonsense. This is the way it always goes with these academics. Like, they make some absolutely ridiculous statement and then either refuse to explain it, insisting that their mere assertion should be good enough for us, that we should bow before them intellectually and accept whatever tripe spews from their pompous, self-satisfied mouths, or else they pretend to explain it, but in reality, they're simply just talking around the issue, going off in half a dozen different directions, and at the end of it all, we're left with an assertion layered in a bunch of other assertions with nothing in the way of an argument, much less a proof or evidence to be found. Now, in this case, there are really 2 claims being made. One is that there is no objective truth, and 2 is that asserting an objective truth is racist. And they don't explain either assertion. And of course, they don't actually believe either of them either. Because if they did, for one thing, they couldn't possibly teach mathematics. This is the whole point of bringing up 2 + 2 = 4 in order to explain that objective truth exists, because every math lesson would consist of them just sitting in front of the class and saying, whatever you think is true is true. You all get A's. Congratulations. Now, we may be getting to the point where school will be taught that way, but we aren't quite there yet, which means that they do believe in objective truth. If they teach math, to teach something means that you believe that there is an objective truth to be taught. The very act of teaching means that you are affirming that there is a truth. Because if there isn't, that means that you're just what? Trying to get the kids to accept whatever subjective point of view you have? What's the point of that? That seems highly egotistical. Also, I'm willing to bet that if either of our friends, Laurie or Heather, ever encountered, say, an actual white supremacist, I mean a real one, like an actual Klansman, one of the 4 who exist in the country, would they not be willing to agree that the guy's worldview is true on any level? I mean, would they affirm his worldview? Would they give him the benefit of his own truth? No, they wouldn't. In fact, they would insist that he is both factually and morally wrong about everything he believes, and they would condemn him accordingly. The only way that you can condemn someone for their worldview or their racism or bigotry is if you are asserting some factual and moral truth that you expect them to comport to and conform themselves to. In fact, even for people who aren't Klansmen, they'll do this. The very statement, 2 + 2 = 4 is white supremacy, that in and of itself is an assertion of truth. Everything you heard in the explanation was an assertion of truth. And it all rests on the belief that white supremacy, whatever it is bad, which is also an assertion of truth. So they do believe that there is a truth, there's an objective truth, a reality that we all inhabit, which has not only scientific and physical laws, but even moral laws. It's just that they're very selective in who should be forced to abide by these laws. So this is racial paternalism cloaked in so-called anti-racism, which is to say it's just anti-racism because that's all anti-racism ever is. Now, briefly leaving aside the problem that these people don't actually believe anything that they're saying, and also the problem that you can't deny objective truth without asserting it at the same time, because saying there is no objective truth is an assertion of an objective truth. So, but leaving all that aside, I want to focus on one thing. Lori says in her explanation, again quoting, the 2 + 2 = 4 talk signals that there is a single truth, a single way of looking at things, a single correct way to live or be, rather than multiplicities of all these matters. Well, right, this is exactly the problem. She says that 2 + 2 = 4 signals that there's a single truth. Well, yeah, it does. I mean, that's the point. There's one single truth. And in that truth, which is the only truth, 2 things combined with 2 other things make 4 things. But then she goes on and says that it also signals that there is one way of looking at things and one correct way to live. But it doesn't signal that at all. And the truth, the way we look at things and the way we live, these are 3 categories. They're not all the same. They don't belong in the same category. The truth is just the truth. It's the reality. It's the state of things. That's what the truth is. And it persists. It maintains, no matter what we think or how we live. As far as what we think and how we live, we have lots of freedom in that regard. Not complete freedom. I can't live at the bottom of the ocean. I can't live on the moon. The reason I can't live that way is that physical reality, otherwise known as the truth, precludes it. But within certain parameters, I can live basically how I want, and I can certainly think what I want. Yet I cannot, through the power of my thought or the manner of my lifestyle, change the fundamental facts of reality. I can choose to acknowledge those realities or not, but the realities persist. This is how the relativists play the game. They conflate reality with perspective and lifestyle. They assert that because there's a multiplicity of perspectives and lifestyles, there must also be a multiplicity of realities. But then, of course, by trying to create more realities, they actually erase the multiplicities of perspectives. Because what they're actually asserting is that each reality has only one perspective, and if you have another perspective, then you exist in a completely different reality. What they're saying is that in the reality that I'm in, there's only one perspective. Anyone has a different perspective, and that they branch off to their own. We live in this multiverse, and each multiverse, each little universe in the multiverse is populated by one person. You only get one perspective for each universe. In summation, the relativists cannot explain their arguments. They can't defend or prove them. They don't even mean most of what they're saying, and they can't help but contradict themselves a dozen times in one sentence. It's a mess, in other words. And it is why they are all today canceled. Well, I hope you enjoyed that clip from the Matt Walsh Show. If you did, be sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel and click the notification button to get more content like this. If you want to watch or listen to the full show, head to dailywire.com and subscribe today. You can also listen to my podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.